Today's lesson is on Kihon. Kihon means fundamentals. And what's really, really important for beginners to know that when you're performing Iaido Waza or techniques, no matter which Waza you're performing or practicing, they all have a roadmap of Kihon. The first one's called Koiguchi no Kirikata, and then we have Nukitsuke, and then we have Foreca, and then we have Kirioroshi, and then we have Shibori, and then we have Noto, and then we have Zanshin. All of these components are in all of the Iaido Waza. Now, some of them may look different than the previous one that you practice. Some of them may look nothing at all, like a whole set that you learned. So if you learn a whole set of techniques, and then you learn the next set of techniques, you're going to look at some of those Kihon, or fundamentals, and you're going to wonder, why are some of these looking so different? I don't understand. It's the concept behind these fundamentals that's important, not the actual movements themselves. And that's what is so wonderful about this art, is all of these components within your Iaido Waza can also translate to life outside the dojo. So the first one is called Koiguchi no Kirikata. That's simply breaking loose your sword from the saya so it can come out of the saya. Japanese swords were usually custom made, and they still are, so the sword handle stays inside your saya, so if you're walking around, it doesn't fall out. So it's a real tight fit here. So you have to release that. And as people perform this more and more, these components of your practice sword, your Iaido, tend to get a little worn out. So folks tend to forget to actually do that movement. They actually just grab the handle and just push it out to do the draw. But it's important to remember to do this part. And what I tell folks to do is, if you find that you have a very, very loose sword, have it repaired or have it shimmed so it goes back to a tight-fitting sword for two reasons. One, your sword doesn't fall out, and two, you're performing your waza correctly. So that's the first portion. Once you perform Koiguchi no Kirikata, the next is the actual draw of the sword. And there's different ways to draw the sword. There's a cut that goes straight across. There's a cut that goes up. There's a cut that comes down. There's some draws that actually comes out to a block, or it looks like a block. So no matter which of these Nukitsuke you're performing, it's still a Nukitsuke. It doesn't really matter which one you're performing. The meaning behind Nukitsuke is important too. The meaning behind Nukitsuke means the life of Iai. What does that mean? Well, that means you have committed to an attack. You have committed to defeating your opponent. It's very similar, I compare it to modern day, is you wouldn't point a gun at someone unless you intend on shooting them. Nukitsuke is pretty much the same thing. If you're going to commit to cut someone, then you have to commit to cut someone or you're going to get cut. So during Nukitsuke, when you do that cut, if you're successful, you're going to defeat your opponent. If you're unsuccessful and you don't have that committed attack, then your opponent's going to have the advantage on you, and you probably shouldn't have pulled the sword out in the first place. So the next component after Nukitsuke is called Foreca. Foreca is a simple concept. It just means you're getting your sword ready to do a finishing cut. So you've done your Nukitsuke here, then you get your sword ready to do the big cut. And just like the other components, you're going to have different versions of Foreca. You're going to have one that just goes 45 degrees like this. You're going to have another variation where the sword tip is right near your left ear, and then the sword comes up, and then you do your big cut. And there's also other kinds where you flip the sword back. It all means to get the sword ready for the finishing cut. The finishing cut, or Kirioroshi, is the next component of Iai. Kirioroshi has been called the mercy cut, the finishing cut, the big cut. That's the component that we look at students as beginners, because that's probably one of the most important components of Iai, is doing that big cut. And you're going to see different versions of that too. You're going to see a big cut from overhead. You may see one on an angle. You may see one on the outside of the leg. Depends upon which waza you're performing. That's Kiryarosh. After Kiryarosh, your opponent is defeated. You then perform what's called Shibori. Shibori is flicking the blood off the blade. It also means you're cleansing your conscience and your soul because you had to do what you had to do to defend yourself and your family. How you perform Shibori, again, there's different variations of it. You're going to see, so after you've done your big cut, and then you're going to see, I'm going to back up a little bit here. You're going to see a flick Shibori. You're going to see what's called a wet umbrella Shibori or a big O Shibori. You're going to see a reverse hand drip Shiboris. There's all different kinds. What's important to know is that it's Shibori and you're cleansing your conscience for what you just had to do. After Shibori is what's called Noto. Noto is putting your sword away because you're done with it. You've completed your technique. So after you've done your Noto, you put the sword away in your saya. And again, there's different variations of this. You're going to see some Noto that's performed very slowly after they do a pause. You're going to see other types of Noto where they're done relatively quickly. And there's different reasons for that at different levels of competency as well. That's Noto. Now, at the end of Noto, many beginners think that you're done now, but you're not. The very, very last component is probably one of the most important components, especially when you translate this to regular life outside the dojo. It's called Zanshin. Zanshin is remaining spirit, a warrior spirit, or self-preserving spirit. What does that mean? Well, when you get done with all your other components of Iai, your opponent's defeated, you put your sword away, you put your hand in a ready position in case you have to draw again, and then you're going to take 3 steps backwards, starting with the left foot. 1, 2, and 3. When you do that, you bend your knee slightly, and you have a feeling of remaining spirit. In other words, you have a feeling of getting ready in case someone else is coming to attack you. Person may have had a friend. Someone may be behind you didn't see. So that Zanshin is performed while you take those 3 steps backward. And once you've taken those 3 steps backward with this awareness, then you take your hands away from your sword. That's a very, very important component that we look at, especially with beginners, because we want you to get in the habit of that. Regardless of how well you think you did or didn't perform your waza, you can always perform Zanshin very, very well and keep that warrior spirit with you inside. Thanks for watching. Any questions or comments, please contact me.